This is episode 28 of the Natural Plastic Surgeon Podcast. We have a very special guest on the show today. This is Dr. Matt Dawson, founder and CEO of Wild Health CBD, amongst other things. And I'm really excited to have him on the show today because I really think CBD has been a game changer for my patients. And I think it has the potential to be a game changer for all surgical patients, plastic surgery or not, in addition to people that are not getting surgery. But, you know, me specifically, I deal with a lot of surgery patients, and Dr. Dawson, I'm happy to have you on board, and I want to kind of figure out, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into Wild Health and CBD.
I don't practice plastic surgery like you. I'm not a surgeon, but I practice genomics-based personalized medicine. So we have a lot of patients who we see them, and everything we do is kind of personalized depending on their genomics and just whatever their complaint is and their preference in their lab work. CBD itself, I got into just because I had so many patients that would come to us, and it was either already working for them really well or they had a lot of questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
I had read the studies. I was very bullish on it. I knew that it worked just from our patients' experience, but I was somewhat worried just by the fact that it was a completely unregulated environment. We were seeing reports of products having not what they said they had in them, tainted with some pretty bad things. There were some bad actors in the space. So I met some chemists and some farmers here in Kentucky. Kentucky happens to be the best place in the world to grow hemp.
No kidding. I had no idea. I mean, you know, we're out here in California, where we have a lot of that going on here, and I never thought of Kentucky. I mean, I'm from Virginia originally, so your neighbor, and I've been to Kentucky a few times. I actually interviewed a couple places there, but when I was looking at residency, but I had no idea that it's a great place to grow hemp.
It is. If you ask the experts, they'll tell you the Ukraine and Kentucky are the two best places in the world for growing hemp.
Wow. Okay. Well, great. Well, go ahead and continue on. I'm sorry to interrupt you there.
So I met a few chemists, a couple PhD chemists, one with a PhD in plant physiology, the other with a PhD in genomics, and some farmers who really knew the science behind growing hemp. And they were already extracting. They were doing it the right way, and I was really impressed with their lab. They had a lab on the University of Kentucky's property. They were doing all the testing for all the farmers in the state of Kentucky. They had a $1 million GC mass spec, multi-million-dollar biotech company. And I was like, this is the type of product that I want to give to my patients.
Yeah, no. So let's back up a little bit because you mentioned a couple points: extraction method, mass spectrometry. So I have a master's in science. Back in the day, I did some research. I was pipetting in a lab a lot, and mass spectrometry, you're like looking at contamination or purity. This is beyond, you know, your typical homegrown kind of situation. And then your extraction method. So I originally heard about you on the Ben Greenfield podcast, and some of the stuff that you guys do and that extraction method and all the different things that you guys do. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why that makes you guys different?
Sure. So these chemists in their biotech lab, they were doing the testing for farmers, looking for pesticides, other contaminants. And so we kind of had a big advantage knowing who's growing clean and who's not. So that's why they had all the lab equipment.
Wow. So you could test for contamination in the actual hemp product that you're getting, or the CBD product.
Exactly. And you have to. Any good product is going to have a COA, or certificate of analysis.
Okay.
These guys were already doing that. So they knew who the good players were. And in their extraction method itself, we do a cold ethanol extraction, different than the supercritical CO2. The supercritical CO2 is what most companies do just because you can scale and you can produce a large quantity. Our focus isn't quantity, it's quality. And we think this is a gentler method that you retain more of the important components from the plant.
Got it. I can tell that right off the bat. I've tried, after that podcast where I heard you talk to Ben Greenfield, I went and actually tried to check out a bunch of different CBDs, and I ordered your product. I tried a couple other products that were just not anywhere near what you guys had, and the effectiveness and the dosage and everything else. And even just the flavor of the CBD. I know it's kind of the one product that I use is a 1500. It's the full spectrum, and it has some of the cannabinoids like the color and so forth in it. And I wanted to ask you about the difference in your products that you have, and what are the advantages and of the different things that you have going on.
Sure. So if you do taste it, it is a very cannabis forward product. It's full spectrum. You can tell the plant that it comes from. I personally, when I see companies with these orange sickle flavor and things like this, this is a plant medicine, not candy.
Right.
So which is pretty straightforward. We have a pretty simple line. We think that the plant does the real work. We're not trying to add or subtract very much from it at all. The full spectrum is the main thing we have. Uh, we do have a few lotions or other topicals, but in general, I think the oil is the best product. It's going to have to be the most efficacious for people, and only if you really can't stand the taste, then maybe try the topicals. But
Yeah.
other, I think the oil is the way to go.
Okay. And what kind of patients do you typically prescribe your products to? Because now you see patients as well. Do you prescribe your CBD to patients or CBD in general?
Yeah, we do quite a bit. We the things that we see it helping patients with them for the most are things like sleep, chronic pain, anxiety. There's pretty good literature to back that up. Now we see patients taking it for so many different things, but I
Mhm.
generally like to stick with the things we've got good literature for it and good evidence. And those are the three big ones that people tend to have really good results with.
Yeah, now let's dive into that a little bit. So, when it comes to people undergoing surgery, have you had any experience with people that have had procedures that have used CBD as perhaps like a an additive or supplement to either help them with preoperative anxiety or postoperative like surgical pain?
Yeah, absolutely, both. The post-op pain is the main thing that we really use it for.
Mhm.
It may not completely eliminate the need for narcotics, but sometimes it does, and at least is going
Yeah,
to decrease that need. And also going to decrease your need for things like Tylenol, ibuprofen, things that we think of safe, but they really don't have the safety margin that CBD does.
yeah.
Their therapeutic window there is smaller before we start getting into harm with those.
Now, that's really key because we're going through an opioid crisis in this country, and I really feel that opioids. I prescribe them for my surgery patients, but I don't like doing it because I know it's not the best thing to treat their pain. And when I convince somebody to try your CBD product, because that's what I carry in my office now, it's like a game changer for them. They don't need the opioids as much or at all, and they sleep better. They but prior to surgery, they don't have anxiety. So I haven't run any studies. I'd love to try to do some specific studies or see what else is out there about surgery, pre-op and then post-op. But I agree with you that opioids for sure decreases that in my patients. And then you're right. I don't think Tylenol and ibuprofen are safe medications. I do try if I'm faced with the opioid versus Advil, I try to go for the Advil, the ibuprofen. But it can cause problems like leaky gut and bleeding and things like that, especially in the surgical realm. And CBD doesn't seem to have any of those side effects.
No, and you made a great point about sleep. The improvement in the sleep is really going to help the healing process as well. Everyone knows how important sleep is, and when you get
Right.
that comforted, you're just going to do so much better.
And Dr. Dawson, I get so crazy at my patients. They hear this on the internet. They're like, I just took a Norco to help me sleep. And I'm like, that's the worst thing you could do. It's like, it's just going to blunt everything. It's going to make your sleep worse. And you're going to delay your healing because you're not getting good quality sleep. And so what I'm telling patients now is like, wherever you heard that, forget about it. Try your CBD first before you start thinking about taking Norco to help you sleep. Because I think it's the last thing you want to do to try to get you go to sleep.
Yeah, when I have patients talking about taking things like Ambien and narcotics for sleep, I frequently tell them, look, if I hit you on the head and knocked you out, you wouldn't call that sleep. And those medications knock you out, but you're not getting the sleep you need.
Got it. Now, are there any side effects to CBD or any contraindications?
There aren't any really hard contraindications. I mean, if
Mhm.
someone has a history of psychosis, perhaps, and or maybe even THC-induced psychosis, then the cannabis plant may be a little riskier for them. But it really is just such a safe medication. There's no real hard contraindications. Everyone responds differently to everything. If you take really high doses, you take too much, there can be bumps in liver function tests. So that's something that
Okay.
we're watching. We want to be very open
N-
about.
Now, was that shown in human studies or was that in just animal studies? Because I thought the evidence was kind of conflicting there in terms of,
Great question. So the animal studies is what's been shown in so far.
yeah,
However, in just full disclosure, because I'm a scientist first and patient
yeah,
safety is the most concern, I have talked to some researchers who are doing current research in humans, and they are saying that when you get to 2 to 3 milligrams per kilogram, which is a big dose, they're seeing a little bit of bump in LFTs, which doesn't mean it's actually causing liver damage. It just
yeah.
means that's something to watch and follow.
Got it. Okay. And how would you recommend? How do you dose for your patients CBD?
It
I guess
depends
it
on what
depends.
the indication
Mhm.
is. If it's something like anxiety and pain, lower doses tend to work, 15 to 25 milligrams. For sleep, if you look at the studies, it's really more in the 100 to 150. So it kind of
Yeah.
depends on what you're taking it for.
Okay. And how long does it take typically for someone to feel or see results with CBD?
The really cool thing about the oil product is it's sublingual and it's absorbed into the bloodstream immediately. So 15 minutes, you're probably going to
Yeah.
feel an effect. It's got a long half life of about 24 hours. So if you're
Oh
taking it
wow.
daily, then it's not going to be in a steady state until day kind of 3 or 4. But you're going to
Okay.
feel the effects immediately of what you're taking right then.
Okay. No, do people take it in the morning too? I noticed that some of the recommendations we got for your product specifically is people can actually take it in the morning as well.
They can take it in the morning. What I generally recommend to my patients, though, is I think nighttime in general is a better time to take it because of the higher dosing that's needed for sleep. I generally recommend for my patients to take it at night in a bigger dose, and then with the long half life, they'll still have enough of it in their system for the anxiety and the pain the next day.
Do you have for you? So I deal with surgery patients that are interested in plastic surgeries, typically cosmetic, some reconstructive. For people out that are listening to this, are there specific genetic issues or other clinical indications or things that you kind of treat the CBD with that people may not be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, CBD is an is anti-inflammatory, and nearly every chronic disease is a disease of inflammation. I mean, people talk about the term inflammaging, so it definitely works for a lot of
I
things.
like that. I'm gonna write that down. Inflammaging. That's great.
As far as genetics go, there are specific genetic SNPs,
Uh-huh.
specifically FAAH or fatty acid amide hydrolase. And
Hmm.
depending on someone's genetic SNP there, we may recommend different amounts for different indications.
Got it. Okay. Is there anybody that you said someone with a history of psychosis would probably not be a good person to get CBD? Is there anybody else that maybe want to be cautious?
Like,
Um,
I guess if
j-
you have liver disease in the past, but in general, no, it's a really safe medication.
okay. Now I've got a question here about C8 oil. What is C8 oil?
Sure. So that's pure caprylic acid or C8. It is the medium chain triglyceride that your body converts most efficiently into ketones. Uh,
Okay.
it's a beneficial oil. I mean, everyone knows about ketones and why that's important. And so we just thought that would be a little more sophisticated of a carrier oil to put it in. It's a little more expensive, but it's a little higher quality, we think.
Okay. And now tell me, let's back up. We're in California, and everybody's all about the organic frou-frou, non-GMO kind of environment in terms of buying produce and so forth and ingredients. And sometimes people are like, I want certain things non-GMO, but this doesn't even make sense. So we're pretty crazy with that stuff out here. Tell us about the source. I know you know it's all grown in Kentucky, but is it organic, the hemp that you guys grow and uh,
Yeah, we
yeah.
completely control the entire process. With
Uh-huh.
with hemp specifically, the USC is going back and forth between whether there are organic or not, and there's all these regulations. And even when you look at your food in the grocery store, if it's called organic, there's still 80 something chemicals that can be put on it. We're not happy with that. So
Wow.
when people ask me that, I usually say we're more organic, a word that just kind of made up, but it's really what you put in your body is paramount. And so what we put in the bottle is extremely important. And that's why from the seed through the entire process, we're in control of that entire process and keep any chemicals and pesticides and bad actors out of that.
What do you see going on next for your company? I mean, is this like your main focus right now? If not, what else is out there right now that you think is going to be the next game changer, or is it CBD and you're just trying to promote that?
Yeah, our main business is genomics based personalized medicine. We have
Hmm.
offices in Kentucky and Bend, Oregon, and New York. We're opening up soon in LA and Portland and quite a few other places. So
Oh, great.
think that the way of the future in medicine is genomics-based personalized medicine, and we're very bullish on the cannabis plant in general as well. So CBD is something that we've been very excited to bring a good product to our patients.
Now, Kentucky is a little different than California. Are you meeting a lot of resistance locally or nationally with trying to promote CBD?
It's slightly different. You're right.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I was in California a couple weeks ago. It's definitely a different culture.
Yeah.
Kentucky, it is a more conservative place in
Yeah.
general, but at the same time, it's doing incredible things for our farmers in the state. So we
Yeah.
you know, have some pretty good support here in Kentucky.
Now, do you work with veterans? I read that somewhere that I thought was pretty neat. Do you work with veterans?
Yeah, we have
Um,
a great partnership with a great group of veterans, and they make a brand called On Duty CBD. And technically,
okay.
it's the exact same product as our Wild Health, but it's
Okay.
specific. So to fire, EMS, military, and they have a THC free blend. Ours is full spectrum. They also have full spectrum, but for some police and others who are going to get drug tested and who can't have any THC period, they don't
Yeah.
want to run that very, very small chance of testing positive.
Okay, got it. So, if someone is coming for surgery here and they do get drug tested, um, is there a different variety that we should prescribe them instead of the full spectrum?
So personally, no. When I talk to people
Okay.
about this, I say it's a tremendous amount that you would need to ingest. But
Okay.
if you are paranoid about it and really
Yeah.
worried or against your company's policy, there is a THC free blend of the on duty CBD that we make.
Is there any, because like I remember my family's in Virginia. I flew back for Thanksgiving and I brought CBD with me, and I'm like, whoa, crap! I think it's actually illegal in Virginia. I guess I'm a doctor. I could probably say I prescribed it to myself or something. I don't even know. I don't even know what the rules are. But are you guys doing anything to kind of? It's so funny because you can get way more lethal things over the counter, and way more dangerous things than CBD. Are you working on any kind of awareness of this and its medical promise?
Just a year ago, it was illegal in quite a few states. Since the
Yeah.
Farm Bill, it's legal in all 50 states.
Oh,
And then
okay.
a few months ago, the problem then, even though, was that TSA, you couldn't fly with it or you'd be in trouble. A few months ago, TSA
Okay.
said it's totally fine, so you can fly with
Okay.
it. It's legal in all 50 states now.
Okay, that's really good news. Yeah, because I got a lot of patients that are super skeptical. They're like, "Am I?" They're worried. I get drug tested at work, or am I going to get high, or am I going to get busted? And I'm like, look, first of all, it's California. There's hardly any issues here. But I was actually worried when I flew home for Thanksgiving. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope I don't get. I didn't even realize it because I bring it home and it worked out fine. Nobody. I was TSA pre-check, so I didn't seem to have any problems. But well, that's great. The Farm Bill, and what do you think is going to be is the main challenge to kind of bring CBD to like a over the? Do you think we'll ever get to the over the counter level for CBD products?
I'm not sure. It's being evaluated with the FDA right now. There are a lot of conversations. Personally, what I hope for is more regulation. There are a lot of companies
Okay.
in the space, and that's what really worries me and scares me. Is there are a lot of people who aren't doing it the right way because there are no
Yeah.
rules that you have to. So I
Hmm.
personally am hoping for a lot more regulation from the FDA and others, so that everyone can trust all the brands that are on the market.
That's actually really key because the way that a lot of people get CBD is they go to certain dispensaries. There's not even information about where I've gone through some of them and I've looked at them. There's not even any like sourcing information. You don't know where this stuff is coming from. You don't even know if it's got CBD in it or whatnot. And it's there's I I see your point in that there's so much misinformation out there that perhaps, yeah, getting it regulated to a point where people can kind of, there's some standards to it. I mean, I think you guys are leading the way when it comes to your product. And it's like, that's why I decided to carry your product because I went elsewhere. I was like, let me see what else is going on with CBD. And there is nothing compared to what you guys are offering right now in terms of quality, quality control, and really clean sourcing of your product that I think is the best, and that's I'm really
I
happy about.
really appreciate that. I do tell people, I mean, we're not the only good company. And if someone really likes a company, the things you can do to kind of vet them is, or go to their website, make sure they have a COA or certificate of analysis. And if
Okay,
they do, then great. I mean, to be honest, you could technically make that up. There are no regulations, but that should be the minimum bar. And then try to get a hold of someone at the company and talk to them as well. If you can't, that's a red flag.
okay, awesome. Well, Dr. Dawson, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. We have an actual a discount code that you guys have generously offered our listeners. It's Dr. Barrett's DRBARRETT, and you said listeners will get 20% off if they use that promo code on your website. Can you tell? Would you be kind enough to share with the listeners your website where they can go to find out more about your product and possibly order it?
So wildhealth.com is where our medical practice is, and wildhealthcbd.com is where you can find the product. And I think it was a 10% discount, but that doesn't sound enough to me. So we'll
Okay.
change. We'll have it 20%, like
Yeah,
like they
that's
theirs.
well, Dr. Dawson. That is so generous. I can't thank you enough for being. Is there anything else you want to share to the listeners out there that you think is pertinent that you want to share with us?
No, I really appreciate you having me on. If you want to get a hold of me and ask more CBD questions, you can find my contact just at wildhealth.com and reach out. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Amazing. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Dr. Dawson, again, thank you very much for being on the show and sharing with us that generous discount code. You guys, if you haven't tried CBD, Wild Health CBD is the best and only place, in my opinion, my humble opinion, to start with CBD and to try it out for yourself.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, doctor.